Welcome to Outdrive, folks. I'm your host, Cliff Callis, and each week I'm bringing you actionable marketing insights you can apply to reach, connect with, and convert rural American consumers. Outdrive is powered by Callis, a full-service advertising agency with a focus on marketing rural America. Callis offers a wide range of integrated marketing services, including website development, search engine marketing, social media, video, and digital. We develop strategic and creative campaigns to build your brand and your business, and you can learn more about us at ecallis.com. Now join me in the front seat as we head out on the road to success. Let's go. Hey folks, welcome to Outdrive. We've got another great story to share with you today about life and work in rural America. If you know much about me, you know I love to travel. I thank my parents for giving me that opportunity growing up. And ever since I've been out on my own, I've traveled every chance I get. But you know, the travel industry has changed thanks to the internet. Once upon a time, you'd have to read books or magazines to try to piece a trip together, or you might make a phone call and ask for brochures and then go through the arduous task of comparing airlines, times, and fares along with hotel packages to come up with a trip that would work for you. Or you could visit with a travel agent who could advise you on different opportunities and even plan the trip if you like. And that brings us to our guest today. Jamie Anderson is an independent travel consultant with the philosophy of helping her clients get the very best vacation for the best price. She is an avid traveler herself who especially loves the beach, and she has visited many all over the world. She also loves photography and scuba diving, and she truly lives the rural American lifestyle with her husband and family from their farm in Missouri. We're anxious to hear about the travel industry today, how Jamie markets her services, and how she overcomes the convenience of using the internet to make travel plans for her clients. Welcome to Outdrive, Jamie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I've been looking forward to catching up and really learning more about the travel industry of today. I love to travel. I always have. It's kind of a blessing that my parents bestowed upon me as I was growing up. And, you know, just from my perspective, I've seen changes in the industry and how you do travel over the years. So I'm interested to talk a little bit about that. And, you know, this is a marketing show, so how you market your services and how people find out about you. But before we get into all that, please tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So I'm located just a little bit outside of Sedalia. I kind of started doing this travel agency about 4 years ago. My kids are to the age they're in college, graduating, and I thought this would be a great, empty nester kind of job to be able to, go travel, learn more about different places, and then help others. I had done for probably 10 or 15 years. I had friends that would come to me and be like, oh, we want to go on vacation. And I would help them do all of that, even though, I wasn't a travel agent. I would, just help them find a great deal to go to or a great location and help them book it even before I was a travel agent. So it's kind of worked out in general. It takes about 4 to 6 years before you get like a full-time income, by the time you build up clientele. So I'm kind of at that stage where it's kind of becoming a full-time 10 to 12 hour a day job every day, just to keep up with everything, which is great. I've had a lot of referrals, and so must mean that I'm doing something right.
I'm guessing that's right. So have you yourself always loved to travel?
Yeah, we have always taken our kids like at least once a year on trips. And when they were little, we did camping, and then we had several families that we would go vacation with. So there'd be 2 or 3 families with kids, and we would go to like all inclusives. And so we typically went at least once a year. And so, I always loved to travel, and it didn't really, I was nervous going through the planes or any of that. So it seems like it's an okay job for me.
Well, what's it take to be a good travel agent?
So the way a travel agent works is we're all basically independent contractors. A lot of people have like a host agency, which is what I have. So a host agency kind of does your paperwork for you, makes contacts with the suppliers. I belong to a host agency called Outside Agents out of Florida. They're in Jacksonville. So they actually have 9,000 agents that are in their group across the United States. So they do in-person training in Florida. They do all kinds of training options for us, in different places where we get to meet the suppliers from all the different resorts, tour operators, things like that. So kind of the bigger your host is, the more commission they can negotiate. So with a travel agent, anything that you book is already has commission in it. So if you go to book on hotels.com, you're going to pay the same thing as if you book with me, but I get the commission after you travel. And if you do it on your own, then like nobody gets the commission except for like a call center.
Interesting.
So it really doesn't cost extra. It's just, the way that it's set up.
That's interesting. I bet most people don't realize that.
Yeah. Most people, pretty much every new client that comes to me is like, how do I pay you? And I'm like, well, you don't really pay me. When you go on your trip after you travel, then that whatever supplier I booked it through then sends me the commission. So
nice. So how does a loyalty program impact what you do? Like, all the airlines have loyalty programs, hotels have loyalty programs. How do you work with that?
Those actually work out to the benefit. So like AA vacations, let's say American Airlines. So if you have American Airlines Advantage and I book your trip through AA vacations, because that's one of our suppliers, you actually get bonus miles. And then I actually get bonus miles for booking you through AA vacations. So it still plays into your loyalty programs and you don't lose any of those. I always ask people when they come in, is there a particular airline that you like to go with, a typical, hotel that you like to go with? Are there certain loyalty programs? So that way I can book with those suppliers and you still get all the benefits.
So then a person would give you their loyalty numbers.
Yeah.
And then if they have points available, you just draw the points and apply those towards the trip.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So with like Delta Vacations, I can actually book the trip and actually apply points towards their trip on their miles. Sometimes if they have like a companion pass with Southwest or whatever, I'll have them go book their own flight and then they can get that free flight companion pass. And then I just do the resort and the transfers and the insurance and all that to go with it.
So you're doing all the hard stuff, the heavy lifting of, research, planning, coordinating, and making sure it all has happened. Because I'm sure you hear this from time to time. Travel doesn't always go exactly the way you plan it, right?
Right. I try to tell everybody they go, what do you do for us? And I said, well, essentially I like to do from the time you leave your house till the time you get back. Like I'll book your pre-flight hotel. I'll set up your parking at the airport. I'll set up your resort. I'll set up your transfers. I set up your insurance, your excursions. And then I just give you an itinerary, with everything printed out. This is everything that you're doing and you just go enjoy it.
Why would a person not use someone like you to book their travel? I mean, it's awesome. So if, say, for instance, I'll pull an exotic place. If we were going to want to go to Greece and we said, we want to go to Greece and here's about the time frame that we'd like to go, how would you proceed from there?
So I typically, like I just had a client come last night that was wanting to go to Italy. So I typically ask them, what do you like to do? Like, what things do you want to see? What kinds of activities do you want to do? What is your focus? So then that way I can kind of narrow down the best spots for the things that they're wanting to do. And then I always ask them, what is your budget? Are your time frames flexible? Because sometimes I can adjust the days a little bit and save you money on the airfare, which then gives you more money to spend, on excursions or the hotel or things like that. They're able to get a nicer trip, but maybe just adjust it a few days.
Nice. And then everything's provided and then they just go.
Yeah. So I just send them like a sample itinerary of these are kind of sample excursions that are available. I usually give like 3 choices for a hotel or wherever they're staying. And then a lot of times I'll send like a YouTube link so they can actually see like a video of where they would be staying to choose from. And then I just ask them, which one do you want, A, B, or C? And then we just, move forward through there. And then my host, they do our website and everything. So they have what we call like a booking link. So if they're interested in booking, I send them, which is essentially like a website address. And it has a photo of every single thing that they chose. And, they make all their choices, say that's what they would like, put in the passengers, information, their credit card information, and then it all comes to me in like a password protected, secure document. And then I go in and book everything and send them the confirmations to look over.
Gosh, I like it. I like it. So you book trips all over the world?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. I've done several Europe trips. I've done cruises. And then I do a couple times a year, I do like hosted groups for people that aren't really comfortable, traveling on their own. I usually do like Alaska, Hawaii. So, like this year in June, I have a group that's going with me. So, the advantage is I'll be on the same plane, I'll be on the same cruise ship, I'll be right there during the whole vacation. So, if there's any kind of issue, I'm right on site. So when I did it this last year, most of the people that went with me had never been on a plane, never been on a cruise. So, and then this year it's grown to probably double the size than it was last year. So, but it just gives them, I have set providers that I've used every year in Alaska that I know, like for specific whale excursions, things like that. So I set up private tours while we're there.
I could see where that would be a real benefit, particularly if you had not done a lot of traveling in your life. But even if you have, the idea of, it's kind of like stress-free, worry-free, you're taking care of everything. I'll just show up at whatever time you tell me and we'll go from there. I really like that idea. So are there any like minimum trips? Like I said, if I was like, I'm going to go to Denver for the weekend, would you do something like that? Or does that even make sense for you to get involved in?
Yeah. So I've done kind of a variety of things. I've done like there's a local church that the ladies just went to Africa for a missionary trip. And they came to me just to do their flights. And then I'm like, you should definitely get travel insurance while you're there because most of the time your health insurance does not cover you in another country. So the advantage is I've flown to a lot of those other airports. So I kind of know like how long of a time frame do you need to have in London or Amsterdam, so then I help to facilitate their flights. And so I just did their flights and their insurance. And then I've done, like for Stace's work, they did a training up in Kansas City in Overland Park and they went and did Top Golf for the night. They just had 2 nights hotel and they had a conference room. They drove there. There wasn't any flights. So I facilitated like all the hotel stays, with all the itinerary, set up the Top Golf, set up the round trip transportation to take them from the hotel over there. And some people just do like a vacation rental. They want to do a vacation rental in the summer. And so I can set that up in Florida, even if they're driving or, Colorado or Montana. So, it's a big variety. Pretty much any kind of vacation you want to do or a trip you want to do, car rentals, I can set all of that up.
That is awesome. So pretty much a full service. If you're leaving your house for business or pleasure, you can take care of it. Well, let's talk personally. What are some of your favorite places to go?
Probably one of my all-time favorites was I went to Galapagos. So there's a company called Hurtigruten, and it's kind of an expedition style travel. So if you go to Galapagos Islands, the ship has to be under 90 people to ever make landfall at any of the Galapagos Islands. And then they have to have a certified tour operator that is born from there, kind of like a park ranger kind of person. So like our guide had 25 years experience. He was born there. And so they put one of those with every like 12 people. And so it's an information rich, group and an information rich, trip to be able to see. We got to see all the different kinds of birds and it's kind of a ship. So it's a small ship, but they had, laundry available. They had hot tubs, all the food was provided. They would do lectures every night before we would make landfall the next day and say, these are the kinds of activities that are available. And you could just sign up and it would be like a boat ride or snorkeling or, hiking on one of the islands, bird watching, all kinds of different things. So it was just a beautiful, unique place to go that a lot of people don't get to go to. So we got to see the little blue-footed boobies and the red-footed boobies and, all the birds everywhere and then sharks in the water and sea lions and just huge parrotfish and things like that. So it was pretty incredible.
So I know you also have a passion for photography, so that place had to be perfect for that.
Yes, it was beautiful. I took my big camera, my lenses, and took lots of really neat photos. When we came on shore one day, there was a sea lion that had just had a baby, like probably that morning. So we got to see like its first swim. And so that was pretty incredible. See all the iguanas. So, and the good thing about the Herdigruten is they have a resident professional photographer on every boat. And so you could use their photography equipment even, and he would do like classes on how to, utilize your camera and help you like adjust the settings and things like that to even take better photos.
So, what you're describing, I thought that there was tons of change in the travel industry, but what I'm hearing is that the full service travel consultant role has remained steady during all this time of, I guess internet bookings becoming so big. I'm really glad to hear that because I guess I thought maybe that industry had gone away, but it's not at all, has it?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like COVID actually made more of a demand because I feel like people realized after with the whole COVID scenario that maybe they wanted like a live person to talk to instead of an 800 number. And so I feel like the demand has become stronger since then. I mean, we have the same, internet options. And so we actually have more options that the actual consumer doesn't see that we can utilize. So, I mean, the internet has helped us in being able to, get more education and more connections. But I mean, nothing really beats seeing it in person. I mean, I try to go on a trip probably once every month to different places, and I do, like site tours, fam trips where I'll go down to like Cancun and visit like 8 to 10 different resorts to see them in person. So that way, because not everything on the internet's correct. So
It doesn't always look that way, does it?
it's always good to see it in person.
Oh, absolutely. I've seen places on the internet and then you get there, it's like, is this the same place? It's similar. I'm assuming there's probably some trends on places that are popular to go right now. Are you seeing some of those?
Yeah. So they kind of cut out revenge travel last year because everybody had been pinned up so much. They were like gangbusters, wanted to go somewhere. So a lot of the big bucket list trips people were just taking because they were worried, what if it shuts down again and I can't go next year? So like Italy last summer actually exceeded how many people they had hosted pre-COVID numbers because there were so many people that were taking, the big bucket list trips. So like Africa, Antarctica, Iceland, Greece is a super big hot spot. Italy, it's just, a lot of those big trips that you wouldn't even think about. Dubai's gotten really, really popular. Of course, the Maldives, a lot of it sometimes trends from, all those Instagrammers making photos.
All of that gives you ideas and, people are influenced by that. I mean, that's why influencer marketing is so powerful today. So say there's somebody listening now, they're interested in what it is that you do. How would they get a hold of you?
Some people come to my website and fill out like an intake form. Some people just drop me an email, phone call. I do a lot of business on Facebook. I have people send me Facebook Messenger messages. We have a business site on Facebook, and then we also have some travel groups on Facebook if they have like a certain interest. So I have different groups on Facebook, like one for Italy and one for Alaska and one for Hawaii and one for Caribbean. So I usually put targeted information in each of those groups for those locations. So sometimes people have an interest in that area, but they don't really want to go right now. They'll join those groups and just kind of, see the information and keep up with the information.
That's a great idea.
And then, once they see something they like, they're like, oh, I want to do that. So
Yeah. So what's your website address and what's your email address?
it's andersondesigns.travel.com and then just andersondesigns.travel@gmail.com.
Okay. There you go, folks. So I'm assuming that a lot of your new customers come from referrals. How else are people finding you?
I do have a booth at a lot of bridal shows because I do a lot of honeymoons and destination wedding style trips. So I usually do, there's a couple big bridal shows that happen like at Lake of the Ozarks, some here in Sedalia, and then some in Jeff City. So I usually do those every 3 to 4 months. So that kind of generates, the honeymoons and destination wedding kind of style. And then with our host company, with the website availability, I do something kind of unique for honeymoons. So I do like a honeymoon registry that's complimentary for everybody that books a honeymoon with me. So I have them send me photos from their engagements and that kind of stuff. And I make up this pretty website with all their photos. And then they can just share that website to their wedding guests. And wedding guests can go in there and buy excursions or, pay on their package or, buy extras for their honeymoon.
It's a great idea. I bet that's pretty popular.
Yeah, it's been super popular and it's been able to, some of these honeymoon clients that have kind of a tight budget, it's been able to, increase their budget and give them double of a honeymoon they would be able to afford on their own. So,
yeah, very cool.
Because a lot of people already have two houses if they're, later in life or things like that. And so they would rather have someone, contribute to their trip instead of just, give them another set of pans or something.
New toaster.
Yeah.
So you mentioned budget. I mean, if a person's wanting to take a big trip, maybe it's a bucket list trip to Italy, do you kind of qualify the trip in some way by saying, okay, if you're going to go to Italy for a week, you probably ought to budget X amount? Is that the way you approach it so that there's like no big surprises and you don't put together some fancy trip that somebody can afford? How do you work the budgetary side of what you do?
Yeah, I usually we start with like airfare costs because, of course, airfare cost is a big portion of it. I mean, to go to Europe, you're going to spend, a minimum of 1,200 per person, sometimes 2,000, depending on the location. So, and then depending on what style of accommodations that they want, that kind of helps you accumulate a budget as well. I typically ask people, so if you go to stay at a hotel, just here local, what kind of hotel do you stay at? So that kind of gives me a guide of, are they staying at the Super 8 or are they staying at Hotel Bothwell? So then like what level of accommodations they're going to want there.
I'm guessing that listening skills are an important part of what you do.
Yes, it's much more important to do the listening than the talking because when someone comes in, a lot of times I'll be like, let's just dream about your trip for a little bit. Just tell me, like, if you could have the ideal trip, like, what would that look like? And then I'll just let them kind of ramble on with all the different things that they like and just make notes because a lot of people, will kind of put little, hints out there like, I really like wine, or I want to make pasta with a chef in Italy, or, I want to go pick grapes in a vineyard, or, things like that. And that really tells you what people are really wanting on their trip.
Yeah, if you ask good questions and listen to what people say, you usually come out all right. So I noticed that you are a certified scuba diver as well, which means you've got to like beaches. Tell us how that came to be. Is that something you've done recently? You've been doing it for years. Tell us about scuba diving.
Yeah. So my husband and I have always kind of liked doing that when our kids were little. Both of our daughters are scuba certified too. They got certified in Turks and Caicos. And it's just a beautiful, thing to be able to do. So that kind of helps me be able to know with that experience what beaches are the most clear, what waters are the best spots to go scuba diving, what facilities you need to look for to go scuba diving, because not all locations have that. So I did actually have a scuba club out of Jeff City had talked to me a little bit about doing some scuba because they have scuba trips, this different scuba clubs. So, it's kind of good to know that background and where they need to go and what kind of facilities they need to have to be able to plan those styles of trips.
So if a person was going to go to Turks and Caicos, for instance, and they weren't scuba certified, they could do it there or they could do it here either way?
Yeah, so beaches is a big one. It's like a family, it's the family version of sandals in Turks and Caicos. And so they have like a pool right there where they do the training and everything else. If you're doing it on vacation, you typically need to be there at least a week because it takes a day or two to do the book work and the pool work. And then you go out for 2 or 3 dives, while you're there. And then you get your patty card. And then every time that you go on vacation, sometimes if it's been a longer extended period of time, you have to do kind of a refresher in the pool before they'll let you go out. But they typically always have a guide with you. It's not like you're scuba diving on your own unless you have extensive training.
So did you do your initial training while you were on vacation somewhere, or did you do it out here in rural America?
Yeah, so we did ours in Cozumel when we were there one time. So Stace and I both did it in Cozumel, and then both the girls did it at beaches in Turks and Caicos.
Okay. But you can do it here, right?
Yeah, you can do it here. There's a pretty big outfit in Columbia, and then there's one in Jeff City that you can do the training. And then they have local places that they dive, and sometimes they'll go to just like Florida or domestic locations and do diving too.
As part of clubs and things.
Right. Yeah.
That's neat. Well, it sounds like you really enjoy what you do, and I'm sure that you're very good at it. What's the best part of your job?
The best part of my job is when people are just, so appreciative. And a lot of times it comes from maybe a conflict. There's been some of those times where, like you said, travel doesn't always go like you expect. Like several months ago, I had a couple that had went to Europe on their honeymoon and they were coming back, and I kind of watch everybody's flights as they travel. So that way I know whether it's going to be late or they're going to make the connection. So I keep it on my phone and I'm keeping track of it the whole time. So I could tell they had been late leaving and they were going to miss that next connection. So when they landed, as soon as I got a hold of them before they even went through customs, I'm like, there's no way you're going to make that next flight. And they had travel insurance. And I said, how about, while you go through customs, I can get you, there's one flight going out that has 2 seats in the same category you're in. I can book you on that flight. So when you pick up your luggage from customs, you can go drop it with the other company and then just, get straight to your gate and then you can make your connection. So when I do things like that, that is something they couldn't have done on their own because I was literally doing all that while they were standing in line at customs. And if they waited, until they got through there and then got to the counter to do it on their own, there would be no spot by the time you got there. So then when you do those types of things, that client is just, they're going to come to you for every trip from then on because you kind of saved the day, one time. So they're like, "Ooh, it's nice to have like a real person that's like checking in on me." So
that would be incredible. I hope they gave you like a nice bottle of wine for Christmas because I think that was definitely wine worthy.
they've definitely sent me about 3 or 4 clients since then. So
Even better, right? Well, when I have the opportunity, I like to take just a minute and do a little research that helps us, who are helping other companies market in and to rural America. As a consumer, Jamie, how do brands best communicate with you and the lifestyle that you lead? How do you consume your media? Where do you go? What do you read? How do you do it?
I feel like a lot of it's social media at this stage, just because I spend so much time on Facebook, Instagram, on the web, doing what I do for work. I do have, like, I'm getting ready to go to Amsterdam for a river conference. So last year when I went with Viking. So I get a ton of literature in the mail because Viking is phenomenal at sending marketing. So every week, something comes in the mail. So sometimes, just getting some things in the mail, but then a lot of it is internet based at this point.
Everybody's living right here, aren't they?
Yeah.
People can't see that I just picked up the phone, but I think they knew what I was talking about. Yeah. So I know you guys have some acreage out south of town. And so you're pretty much living a rural American lifestyle, even though you travel all over the world. When I say the words rural America, what kind of thoughts and images come to your mind?
Open countryside, kind of a simpler living. I think we kind of saw that. My husband and I went to the Mediterranean last fall, and he's like, I am so glad to live where we live, because when you go to places like that and you see that like people don't go, I mean, sometimes in their lifetime, they don't expand out more than 10 blocks where they live ever. So when you tell them like where we live and how much land we have, they're just unbelievably can't even understand it, because they've just never seen that kind of open countryside. So, I mean, I feel like we're incredibly blessed to be able to, have that open countryside and animals and, that kind of living. And then it's really influenced like our family because, our girls grew up on a farm, had animals. Our one daughter graduated with an agribusiness degree from a zoo. And then our other one will graduate this May with an animal science degree, worked with our large animal vet. So, I mean, I feel like it's really influenced their lives long term, what they enjoy doing. And then, just their long term thing that they will do in life.
It's a pretty good way of life, really.
It is, yes.
Travel actually sort of similar to what you just said. It kind of makes you appreciate what we have out here in the country. And, I like to go to big cities and experience, their way of life and, feel the energy and, do theater or music or art or whatever, museums. But it's always nice to get back home where it's a little quieter, a little fast or a little slower pace. Things seem easier and more comfortable. But it's nice to be able to experience both, which is what you're able to do for your clients. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think some of it, because a lot of my clients obviously are from here. And so I feel like some of it is understanding, what they're used to in daily life. So some places they go may be totally opposite of what they're accustomed to. So being able to understand that it is a big difference and explain that to them before they get there makes a difference, as opposed to, somebody that doesn't know where we live or how we live or, how our roads are or, what daily life is here.
Yeah, I remember the first time I went to New York, it was like culture shock.
Yeah.
I mean, until you experience it, you can't even imagine what it's like. And of course, New York's a great city. It's a great trip for about, to me, 3-4 days. But there again, I think that makes you very good at what you do and helping people understand, what the expectations are going to be for a trip like that. Because, yeah, not everybody lives the way we do here.
Yeah. I had that conversation with people around here that are getting ready to go to Hawaii, just trying to figure out where to go as well. So, they'll be like, oh, I think I want to go to Oahu. And I'm like, you need to understand, some people picture Hawaii in their mind and think it's like some open, tropical oasis, which is not Oahu, like it's great big buildings, like a very big shopping district, very hectic. And then understanding, like if you're going to Maui, they don't have roads like us, they have little bitty roads. And so, explaining the differences of what they're going to see and how it's going to be to drive there. Because some locations really aren't a good place to have a car. It's better to just have a transfer.
And it's nice to have somebody like you who has the experience to be able to help them with that.
Yeah, because sometimes places we've been, they're like, we really don't like it when people come here and get cars because they don't understand. We don't drive like they drive, and it can be dangerous,
Yeah. Well, this has been fascinating. It really has. I've enjoyed visiting with you about it. I've learned a lot today. I can see an incredible value for what you do for your customers. So I appreciate you sharing all that with us. What else would you like to share with our audience today that you think they might find interesting or maybe even inspiring?
Well, I mean, like I'm getting ready to go on a trip to Europe. So I leave for Amsterdam tomorrow, and it's like a river conference, which I feel like very few people have experienced here. A lot of people go on a regular cruise, but they may not have been on a river cruise. So it's kind of a unique experience because it's much smaller ships. The rivers go right into the cities. And related to marketing, we have a company that does marketing just for travel agents. So the first part of my trip actually is training with this lady that just does, marketing for travel agents and how to, do email marketing and that kind of thing. So it's just a big training trip, but it's going to be really informative to be able to see all the different ship companies and go on 12 to 14 different ships, see what the rooms look like, taste the food, see how they're all laid out to really learn firsthand.
Sounds like the best of both worlds. Hard work and a lot of fun to boot.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be a pretty neat, like you said, a culture thing for sure. It's definitely different than here. So, and all the old buildings and churches, and it's pretty incredible to see in person.
Yes, it is. And, that's, again, is another one of the neat things about travel is to experience new things and see new things that you're not going to see any other way. Well, have a great trip on the river. Thank you for being with us again. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you.
Folks, thanks for listening to Outdrive. I hope you've enjoyed our visit today with travel consultant Jamie Anderson. Come back again next week and I'll take you down the roads of rural America where it's heaven on earth.
Thanks for taking a ride with us on Outdrive. This episode is complete, so head on over to ecallis.com for more insight you can apply to help drive your business growth. And be sure to sign up for our free monthly e-letter, Outthink, for even more helpful content about marketing to rural America. Have a great day and keep on driving.